Hello, and welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for selecting my channel among the billions on YouTube. This video was encouraged by comments that I received when I asked viewers to suggest topics for future pen videos. So a number of people have asked, what are your favorite pens? Review some pens that you may have been using for a period of time. So these four pens immediately came to mind. They have all been inked up since the day I got them, some of them a year or more. And I've enjoyed writing with them all the time. They've traveled with me. I haven't changed the ink. When they get dry, I refill them with the same ink, which to me is an excellent indicator of a pen that you really enjoy writing with, that you're very happy with the ink in the pen, the line it puts down, so therefore you continue to use the same ink. Also, avoids having to clean out the pen when you change inks. And I've also never had to flush these. They write first time every time. They can set for a few weeks or a month or so. Pop the cap. 3 of them pop off. 1 is an unscrew. Can you guess which one? The other thing they share in common is they're all made out of metal. They're substantial pens. They feel substantial in the hand. They share a few common design traits, but there's enough varieties in these pens to pique my interest and to keep me engaged with them. So let's pop some caps, put some nibs on paper, and talk about how they write. A video like this is sometimes a challenge, so I start out doing discussion on 4 pens that I really enjoy writing with, and of course that evolves into what pens may have influenced their design, how well their design is executed, how it differs from the designs that were incorporated into the pen, and what unique features have they put in. Watch me explore those ideas with these pens. So you may recognize this classic clip design, the Aeroclip, which was first introduced by Parker back in the early 40s. If we look at the bottom of the cap band, we'll see it's engraved with the model number, which is 601, and it's a Wingsung 601. It is what I would call a pump filler, and we'll look at that a little bit later. Pull-off cap, and it has that same type of clutch mechanism. It could be a little tighter. There may have been some wear. This is the oldest pen of the group as far as how long it's been in use. We pop off the cap, we'll see a change. This section is now brushed stainless steel, the same as the rest of the pen. This section costs almost as much as the whole pen did, but it just gives the pen a very nice look. And it's not my favorite material. I prefer the plastic section as far as how it feels, and this is a little slippery, more slippery than I like, but it still doesn't detract from writing with the pen. And I think we need to bring in the other 601 that I have in this group. There's a gold trim, there's the rhodium trim. Again, a pull-off cap, but this one has a better feel to it, feels more secure and tighter. And this is the more typical design. If you buy a 601 in this stainless steel version, it has a plastic section, and this definitely is not slippery in my hand. And I enjoy writing with it, but the balance of this one with the metal section is nice because it weights towards the nib. And you may ask, what's the filling system? Well, here's 2 examples, one with ink and one without ink. So the blind cap unscrews. We'll see a nice metal piston there, and what that does is it pushes down this plunger. So when you push down, you'll see there's a breather tube there, so it pushes out air. And yes, I Frankenized the pen because I was able to buy different sections to fit on here. So you can go nuts with that color combination. Not necessarily a good one, but one that I came up with. And I've done a video on this filling system. I'm going to do a playlist on 601s so you can see how they work and look, because I've done long live filling. And this is a pen. As you can see, I have a label on it because it's very unique. This pen was lost for over 6 months. It sat underneath a radiator in my family room. After 6 months, I found it in cleaning up, uncapped it, and it wrote first time. That to me was just unbelievable. So it sat like this on the floor, hot, cold, everything else through 2 seasons, and still wrote. And as you can see, there's still a fair amount of ink left in there, even though the pen has been in use for a long time. Couldn't continue on with the 601 if we didn't talk about the 601A, which they made variations of this pen. You can see there's a blue jewel in the top, a jewel in the bottom, and that generally denoted that that was a draw filler. With no jewel, when this was just metal up here, that was the original version, which was vacuum filler design. And here you see another interesting change. Wow, it's a number 5 nib. So they've really evolved and changed this pen, I think, in ways that a lot of people can enjoy. They also came out with a tubular version of it, but that nib was not one that I liked, so that pen has been relegated to the drawer. But all the same design elements, all the same clips on these, but different treatments of details and different nibs. The other thing that this design shares in common is great posting. Post deep, post secure. It's a little bit of a back balance, but doesn't impact the writing experience in my view. I generally don't post pens when I write with them unless they're just too short to write with unposted, because I'm generally sitting at a desk, so I just take the cap and set it up on the desk. That way I can easily find it when I need to. So this has had the same ink in it since day one, which is Noodler's 54th Massachusetts, a great permanent blue-gray ink, reminiscent of the subject matter. So hopefully you can see and hear that this is a great hooded nib. Some people don't like hooded nibs, and that's fine, but as a writer, I don't know why you would hate the hooded nib. And this is a pen that's an excellent and perfect everyday carry. I mean, knock around, beat up, looks good, 20 bucks. Great filling system, holds a lot of ink, so you could go days and days and maybe weeks, depending upon your amount of writing, not have to refill it. Yeah, there's no ink window. And to me, if you pen like this with no ink window, if I'm going to be out on the road, or if I'm going to, if I've used it for a while, I'll just refill it. And that's easy, 3 pumps, and it's, it's full. You don't need to be able to see the ink to know that that filling system has done its job. So that's why I just enjoy this pen. I enjoy it visually, I enjoy writing with it, I enjoy the feel in my hand. And that section is, to me, the thing that the Parker 51 first had, a section like this. Since then, it's been kind of ubiquitous, and a lot of pen makers have utilized this design that allows you to hold the pen anywhere. So the one downside to hooded nib is sometimes you might, get it at a different angle, but I'm rotating now and you can see it continues to write, which is another thing. And I don't do reverse, but it does work great in reverse. and then it becomes an extra, extra fine. So it has everything going for it. Reliability, dependability, writes well, writes first time every time, looks good, and is a pretty indestructible pen. So here's that 601 with all silver trim that I replaced a section with the metal section. And this is also a fine nib. It's even smoother than the other one, but you know, that's very subjective. But these nibs are extremely consistent, which is the other thing that I find that hooded nibs provide you that is better than the standard nibs, which you could have out of alignment. Not that these couldn't be, but it's less common. And this is Birmingham Ultramarine, which is a really, really nice ink, and it works great in this pen. These pens seem to accommodate almost any kind of ink you want to put in them. They always write well with that ink. You know, when I played around with what pen I was going to put that section on, I decided on this one because with the chrome trim, that section just visually, I think, blends in with it. So this pen has grown on me over time, the more I write with it. And this is a Moonman. Their approach to this minimalistic, simple design metal pen. They report this to be made out of titanium alloy, and it definitely feels different than the brushed stainless. And it looks a little different, not substantially, but enough. It also costs the most of any of these pens. Again, a pop-off cap that feels good, feels as good as any of them. And this comes with a metal section, but the titanium alloy just has less slipperiness. That's not a good term. It's less slippery than the brushed stainless steel. And you can feel that consistently in the barrel as well as the section. And you can hold it anywhere. And this is another pen that the more I write with it, the more I enjoy it. And it's a great knock-around everyday carry. But to me, that price point of north of $50 US kind of takes it out of a normal everyday carry, where the other ones you can get for around $20. So this is definitely a finer nib, but it's just as smooth as the other hooded nibs. And that to me is another characteristic, at least from my experience. I've seen some viewers comment on they find these nibs scratchy and everything else, and I have no idea because I not have had that experience. I mean, this is as smooth as you want. And just a hint of feedback. I mean, to me, it's a great nib. It's the better of the nibs so far of the pens that we've written with. And this also has Birmingham Ultramarine ink in it, and it dries very quick. You can see how quickly it dries compared to that fine nib with the same ink in the Wing Sung 601. So if you want something just a little different, and if you compare what I paid for that metal section to go on the 601, then this price isn't that bad. And I do like the way that this titanium alloy feels in my hand. So now we go to the Hongdion version of this pen. And they took a slightly different approach. And this is the 517S. I have to go look at it. Nice engraving there at the bottom of the cap. You know, shiny finials, top and bottom. I mean, all of these pens, I think, from a design aspect, I really appreciate its minimalistic design, but functional, practical, and still pleasing to the eye. This is the different one because it's an unscrew cap. It's like 1 1/4 turns, and this also has a metal section, but it's been textured and put grooves in, so it feels good in the hand. And that has a fine nib in it. And this has a little bit of a different ink. This is almost lighter than the other pens, but it still feels good in the hand. And as we talked about before, it posts deeply. You feel the weight of the cap, but it doesn't really change the writing experience that much, but I don't write with them posted. This has a nice ink in it. Let's see how it looks on paper. This ink is Noodler's Lexington Gray, and it dries almost instantaneously on paper. It's extremely water resistant, a very permanent ink, and I just love the way it looks. I mean, it shades great. And this nib is stiff, but I like the way it feels on paper. It has more feedback than the other ones, but not a lot more. I just pick up this pen a lot and write with it because I love the ink. This is also a cartridge converter like the Moonman was, but I think they did a great job with this design, and that nib and this ink just work together well. And like I mentioned before, I've kept the ink in these pens the same from day one. So I wanted to give an honorable mention to the Wing Sung 618s. They also have hooded nibs, but they're all piston fillers. And this was the first pen that I really fell in love with. And these also share a similar trait. You uncap them, they write first time every time. This one, I put a nice Fude nib in it, and with that red ink in there, it's a great pen to use when you want to do some emphasis to your writing. Stylized Aeroclip there, interesting metal finial at the top, but again, another pen that has gone into everyday carry and everyday rotation and everyday writing for me since the many years ago that I first started it. And I do have a few of these models, and they're all great. So here we show my two metal Wing Sung 601s next to two Parker Flighter 45s. Gold trim, rhodium silver trim. As you can see, they're similar. The clip is definitely similar. Top finial is also somewhat similar. They're all metal versions of the 45s. I don't have one. I did snag one on eBay recently, but it's still in transit. Different filling systems. The 601s are slightly more width to them. All of them have snap-on and off caps, which work very similarly. But you notice I didn't write with any 45s because I don't have them inked up. I do have some that I really love the nibs on it, and that's one of the big differences. You can get a lot of variety in nibs in the 45s, and they're easy to swap in and out, whereas the 601s with their hooded nibs are not. So posted, you can see another big difference between the 601s and the 45s. The 45s have a much longer section, and it's not as beefy as the ones on the 601s. The 601 sections are more similar to a 51. And also you have your semi-hooded nib on the 45s and your fully hooded nib on the 601s. Interesting that the silver trimmed 45 has a gold tone nib. I don't think they put many 14 karat nibs on the 45s. So because I talked about the Parker 51, I would bring one in here to show the differences between the original vintage Parker 51, the Wing Sung 601, and the Parker 45. The sections are different on all three. The more girthier one is the one on the Parker 51, standard size, and then the 601, and then the 45, which is slightly thinner. Here's a close-up of those sections, and you can see the similarities, but again, there's differences. They're not exact duplicates, nor are they meant to be. But I certainly do enjoy writing with the 601 nibs more than I did enjoy writing with my 51s when I had them inked up. To me, one of the challenges with collecting vintage 45s is the sections tend to get distorted. But you just have to watch out for that, and it really doesn't change the writing experience that much. They did put the nib size opposite the nib, and you can definitely see that that broad nib has a decent amount of tipping material on it. The 45s, I think, are known for that, and I enjoy writing with them more than I do the 51s, which are limited in nibs, at least the ones that are available. Here's two examples of nib units. I was buying nib units also there for a while. They easily unscrew from the section. And as we see on these, can you guess what size nibs they are? We flip them over and we'll see one's a fine and one's a broad. And as I mentioned, they do nice tipping material. And I do have some that are pretty much mint. Here it is with these original designation on it. A deluxe, 45 standard deluxe with a medium nib. We pop the cap, we'll see it has a fine nib, not medium, so it was mislabeled, or, as we discussed, the nib was swapped. That's how easy it is to remove the nib. And they also were made for marketing materials. We see a very nice pair here. That Harry's photo, radio and TV, in California, used. Notice the phone number. So, as typical of my collecting habits, I went on a 45 binge a few years ago, and here's some examples of the wide range of colors that they used in the barrels. And they've varied the trim from gold tone to silver tone. They all are consistent. These weigh about 5 grams less than the Flighter version because of the plastic barrels. So here we are back where we started with these 4 pens. Hopefully you found it interesting where I go through and talk about them and write with them and share with you why these are everyday carries for me, everyday writers for me. And that's one of the fun parts of fountain pens, and at least for me, I enjoy having a lot of them. I have a lot of them inked up, and I write with them regularly. I just finished a nice letter to one of my pen pals that I've had for many, many years, and I used, I think, over 10 pens during the writing of the letter. At the end of the letter, I did something new. I did the fountain pen quick review where I wrote with a different pen, different ink for just a few lines, and then went to another pen just to basically show the differences of inks and nibs, and it was all on Tomoe River paper, and I've decided that that's going to be what I need to use most because of the light weight of the paper, because I usually throw in newspaper clippings or other things that I find that might be of interest to my pen pal. So I hope this video finds you safe, healthy, and happy, finding pens that you love to write with, that you find that an ink that you love, that fits in the pen that you love, that looks great on the paper that you write on. That's the whole, to me, reason for what we do, at least what I do. So with this, we're going to thank all of you for watching. We're going to get near the end, and we're going to say bye. Enjoy your pens, enjoy your life. We'll see you soon.